As I look at this video, I see several things that should influence fly design. As the nymph tumbles down the stream, I see the dark upper side alternating with the light lower side, giving a flashing effect. While the stonefly is drifting, though, the back of the stonefly as a whole is remaining rigid. At the same time, I see the legs flutter. So it seems that articulation of the fly body is seemingly not so important, while incorporating fluttering legs seems to be a key design element. So the chain stone was born. Besides the fluttering legs, what I see for designing a golden stonefly is that you have a very light colored fly right after molting, but over time the golden stones darken to give a very heavily banded abdomen with a dark and heavily gilled thorax. So while the lower side of this golden stone remains light colored. So the design elements I see are a single hook, rigid, non-articulated body, about 2 centimeters long, a ribbed abdomen, a fuzzy body with a light and dark side, as well as the fluttering legs. I'm tying the chain stone today. It's a golden stone pattern that's heavily weighted. It's designed to be an anchor fly, the point fly on a 2-fly euro-nymphing rig. We tie it. The recipe is given at the back of the fly tying video, along with the source of the chain that we're going to use. But we start off with a ultra thread, 70 denier cream colored thread, which is going to match the dubbing, which is a dubbing mix I put together, and the recipe's given in the back as well. We also use the Daiichi 4640 size 6 hook, which is has a golden bronze color, which I like with my fly. It also has an adequate gap here. It is barbed, but I pressed the barb closed, and I like it because I can. The extra gap gives me a little more play room when I put on large beads. Sometimes, depending on the flow, I put larger and larger beads on, so this gets to the bottom and can do bottom bouncing. So to get it to bottom bounce, I also had lead weight. So this is a 3.5, 4 millimeter disco bead gold there. And then I'm going to tie in some 030 lead. I tie it on the top because I'm trying to get inversion weighting. I leave a little gap to finish between the lead and the bead. And I come back about 3/4 of this. This hook shank is right around 1/2 inch, 3/4. The reason I tie it this length is because the golden stones are usually a 2-year to maturity nymph. And so a smaller stone of the intermediate size is always in the water, regardless of the season. So if you don't, right before the hatch, you can tie them up at 1 inch, around 1 inch, because that's what's in the stream and moving. But after the hatch, you got to go back to these ones that are 1-year-olds and are about going to be about half that size, I guess. I tried to look it up, but couldn't find any information on how big a 1-year-old golden stone is. So I'm figuring it's half of the adult size, which is typically given to be around 1 inch. So I've tied in this 0.4 millimeter gold-plated chain to make the tail. I'm going to add the ribbing, which is the medium amber wire. I tie it alongside the hook, just trying to get sort of a flattened look of the golden stone. And plus it's there if I tie it in on the far side, it starts wrapping right away without any trouble of twisting the tails or anything like that. So now I'm going to dub in. I do pretty sparse dub on these golden stones because they're a pretty long and narrow fly for the most part. There are some pretty flat, squat ones though, so it depends on what's in your local stream. But generally, I believe that less is more when it comes to dubbing. Also, these golden stones have a lot of gills on them, so I tend to fluff up my dubbing like that. This is going to emulate the gills on the fly. So I start wrapping forward, fill in that gap with a few extra wraps. We're going to get a uniform body that way. Keep coming forward. Going to need a little more. Nah, we're about right. So I stop about halfway up, maybe 2/3. Then I start wrapping the ribbing. Golden stones often are thought to represent the stonefly which has recently molted, shed its exoskeleton, and are very light colored. But they also have a pronounced ribbing. So I like to tie with the copper wire to give the pronounced ribbing as well as add to the weight. So now I'm going to clip off a segment of the golden pheasant tail to give me my wing case. Like that. Now I'm ready to add some more dubbing. We're going to go to the legs, which are tied in with a figure 8 pattern. Come behind, and then I pin this back like that. I don't worry about whether the legs are equal. I'm going to trim those up later. Within reason. Add more dubbing. Third set of legs. Pull the wing case forward. So when these molt, when golden flies molt, they're very light colored. They're entirely light colored, often a beige or a yellowish golden color, and they darken as they age after the molting. So I tie a sort of an intermediate pattern here with a dark wing case, but light overall. So this is supposed to represent this freshly molted golden stonefly. Whoa, saved you from watching another whip finish on a fly. I also have trimmed the legs already using a pair of old scissors and evened them up. But what I want to talk about now is how this fly would fish. I got the idea for a chain stone from watching the Cutters. That's Ralph and Lisa Cutter's video called Bugs of the Underworld. This is the stonefly chapter. And in there, they show a stonefly, a Pteronarces, gets washed off a rock and starts drifting downstream. And what you see are three things. For one, the stonefly keeps a relatively rigid back. And two, you see the alternating dark colors of the upper side and the light colors of the lower side. The rigid back is contrasted to the legs that keep flipping around like this. And so that's what gave me the idea that a chainfly would make a good stonefly imitation. The other thing is that this is a very heavy fly. I'm going to release it and it's going to drop. You can hear it hit between the lead and the bead and the chain, which is brass. We've added a lot of weight. So I designed this fly to go down into the deep holes of Browns Canyon on the Arkansas River and the Yellowstone system and dredge out those deep holes with a bottom bouncing fly. So this is quite heavy, but you could lighten it up by going to a brass bead, no lead, and then, of course, the legs would have to stay with the brass legs. So admittedly, I got a little carried away in blending using 6 different dubbings. It kind of just got going down a bad road there where I had to make it the color I wanted, and it seemed like I needed to do that. In the end, it ended up like a 1-to-1 mix of the Prism SLF Amber and the Super Bright Cream. So this is what it looks like.